All right, so 6.5, volumes of pyramids and cones. So this one, guys, all right, so volume equations. Oh, what's that? Volume equations. All right, so we've got the volume of a right prism, and it's saying that the volume is A times H. So what does that mean? Well, what that means, here, one sec, I gotta change my pen size. There we go. What that means is that if you figure out the area, right? So A is just stands for the area of the bottom of that guy. The area of that guy. If you ever find out the area of the base, then it's just going to be times the height of the thing that you're looking at, right? One sec. Okay. Moving on, we've got area of, or sorry, the volume of a right pyramid. And this is going to be 1/3 area of the base times the height, right? Area, you guys have seen this with lots, or sorry, volume of a rectangular prism. All of the different dimensions multiplied together, right? Length times width times height. Okay. And you know what? I'm not going to go through every one of those. These really are the ones that are on your formula sheet. And I think we'll just start using them. So number one. So it says calculate, oh, your faces are in the way for me. Calculate the volume of a right square pyramid with a base of 4 feet and a slant height of 7. Right, so the volume of a right square pyramid. All right, so what does that mean? So here, you guys are really good at drawing these too. What you should do is make a square. And then the easiest way I find to make these ones is you would make a dot just somewhere. And I like to make my dot just like a little off to the side here, like not directly above it. And then you just connect all of your corners to that dot. So we get a bit of an idea there, right? Oh, you guys are showing your pictures? All right, yeah. Okay, so volume of a right square pyramid with a base of 4 feet and slant height of 7. All right, so what we have going on here though, so it says the base, we have a base length of 4 feet. So that means that this is 4 feet. I'll just leave it as 4 for now. And now the slant height part, that's what might be throw us a little bit off. What that means is it's the distance from here all the way up the face, right, of that thing. It's saying that that is 7 feet, right? So that would be 7 feet. So that now that we have our picture drawn, what I usually like to do is actually write out the equation I'm going to need for this. So the equation we're going to need for this guy would be this one, right? We need this. So that's 1/3 length times width times height. And again, you guys are going to want your formula sheet for this unit, right? So have that beside you when you're doing questions or on the computer. But so the volume is going to be 1/3 length times width times height. So now, if we want to just start, hey Luke, you keep kicking yourself out. If you want to just see what you have, right? Let's just figure this out. So we know that this is 4, right? So I know, let's say the length, right, would be 4, and maybe like we call that the width, right? Does anybody know what the width would be in this case? It's kind of hard for you to chat.
2. It's 2.
Not quite. No, it's not 2. And the reason why it's not 2, yeah, I think you're just one step ahead of us.
It's 4.
Okay.
It's 4 just because it's a square. We're going to do something like that in a second, though. But yeah, so it's going to be 4, right? So the width is 4, and that's just because it's a square, right? It's a square pyramid. So that's 4. So far we've got, the volume is equal to 1/3, and the length was 4, and the width was 4. And now here's the question: what's the height? Like, is the height 7?
I'm just going to keep saying 2 until I'm right.
It's 7.
It will come up. You will be right in a minute. it's not 7, right? That's the slant height. That's the height going up the side of this thing, right? So we're going to do something similar that we did way back like 2 weeks ago now. We're going to make a
You have to
right angle
a
triangle.
right triangle and then do Pythagorean theorem
That's
kind of
correct.
thing.
That's correct.
Look
So
at me
we're going
go.
to make a right triangle like on the inside of this guy, right? So that would be like a right angle right there. And the reason why we do that is because we're after this, right? That's our height. We want the straight up and down part of this guy. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of Pythagorean theorem here. I can see that my hypotenuse, right? My hypotenuse there is going to be 7. So I got one side of my right angle triangle. I would really like to have that side of my right angle triangle. So what is that, Dakota?
2.
Good. Yeah, that I drew my picture terribly here, but this part of my triangle, right? Can you guys see that? That should be right in the middle of that square. That should be 2 from there because the whole thing is 4, right? So it's half of that length. So that's going to be 2. All right, so we're pretty good to go. I've got my hypotenuse. I've got another side. So we're going to use Pythagorean theorem here. So we'd say, okay, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. But this is a little bit different though, right? I've actually been given the hypotenuse already, right? You guys remember how that changed things up?
It's like C is equal to A squared minus B squared.
It'll be like A we're looking for now, right? Like if I call this A for a second instead of H, it'd be like
Okay.
A squared is equal to, and then C squared minus B squared.
Minus B
Right?
squared.
It really just has to be the hypotenuse minus the other side squared, right? It has to start with that one. So okay, let's move it over here a little bit. So we've got A squared is equal to, and then that was really 7 squared, right? That was the hypotenuse. Minus 2 squared. So A squared is equal to 49 minus 4. So A squared is equal to 45. So is this 45? Is my height?
No,
45?
you have to square root it.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because A squared is equal to that very last step. Square root both sides, right? So A is equal to, and then the square root of 45. So 1 second, I'm just doing it. Square root 45. So I'm just going to write that out as 6.7. And technically here, guys, what you want to do, because my answer, like, this is an irrational number. What I want to do is write out a bunch of digits, because my answer here is really 6.7082039. Like, it goes on forever, right? I'd like to give myself a few digits because this is going to make sure that my answer in the end is accurate. So let's write it out as 6.708, right? Like that's probably going to be good. Okay, so that's my A, and really, maybe I shouldn't call it A. I just did that because it was Pythagorean theorem. That was my height, right? That's what my height is equal to. So if we want, let's just write that in there now. So our height here was actually 6.708. And I totally got my weight here because now I'm out of room. But so now we can go back to this point, right? So at this here, we were at volume is equal to 1/3 times 4 times 4, and then my height. Now I know it, right? That was the whole thing. That was that number there. That was that. 6.708, right? So then in the end, sorry, I got a little messy here. In the end here, that would all be equal to, I'm not even sure what that's equal to. Let's see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we end up with 35.776. So you would just write that out as 30. Really, in the end here, it'd be good if you rounded this up. That's 7 up. So 36. And what are my units here? So everything here was in feet, right? I kind of dropped them for a second. But if I'm doing volume, remember surface area would have been feet squared. So this will now be feet
cubed.
Feet cubed, good, yeah. So 36 feet cubed. So there's my answer.
Wait, Mr. Brown.
Yep.
So why did you put 4 times 4?
Because the equation is length times width, and my length was 4 and my width was 4 because it was a square.
Okay. But why is the 7 just like not become involved with this at all?
Well, because the 7 was the slant height, right? That's not the actual height in the equation. If I scroll up a bit here, the height that I was actually interested in is this, right? Right here. Like that's my height, the straight up and down height. That's the one from the equation. What they gave us there was actually this, right? They gave us like the face of it, the slant height part of it. I wasn't that interested in that, right? I didn't really want that. So what we did is we used that slant height to figure out what age.
To find that, yeah.
To find age. That was the idea there.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question.
Thank you.
Okay. Determine the volume of a right rectangular pyramid with dimensions of that by that and the height of that. You know what? That one's going to be very similar. I'm gonna skip that one. Let's do this one. Determine the volume of a cone with a diameter of 8 millimeters and a height of 13 millimeters to the nearest cubic millimeter. All right. This one shouldn't be too bad. So we have a cone. All right, here's how you draw a cone. I make an oval on the bottom. And then I make a dot. You can make this one directly above it. And then just from one side of the oval to the dot on either side of that. It's a straight line.
I usually just like do the triangle and draw the oval at the bottom of it, but this one.
Yeah, I'm actually assuming you guys are probably a lot better than me at this, so at the drawing part. So. Okay, so now what did they give us? They told us the diameter of this thing was 8 millimeters, right? So just be careful because that's from one side to the other, right? That would be 8 millimeters. Let's write 8. We'll just keep it all in millimeters. So that's 8 millimeters, and the height of this guy, so straight up and down, would be 13. All right, so now just to get our bearings, let's figure out what our equation for a cone was. So you guys, again, have this in your formula sheet, but it's 1/3 pi squared times h. So the volume is equal to 1/3 pi squared. That's not right. I forgot an r. Pi r squared. Oh. Yeah, of course. All right, so so let's just fill in what we know. So it's asking for the volume, so I don't even have to rearrange anything. So it's volume is equal to 1/3, and then pi is just a number. And then, okay, we don't really have that one yet, do we? Or do we? The radius of a circle. Anybody know what that would be? You can put in the chat too.
Isn't it like half? So like it's fully 8 and then you would just go in half?
Yeah, exactly. So it's gonna be 4, right? So the radius of this guy is 4. Right, 4 right there. Here, I missed the radius red. The blue's not showing up as well. Yeah, so it's 4. So it's gonna be just times 4 squared. And then times my height. They actually gave me my height, right? I didn't even have to do the slant height stuff this time. So that's just 13. And then this one is just plugging it all in. So times so I end up getting 217.817. So I would just write that out as, and we're not doing great with our sig digs because like technically this would only have 1 sig dig. So technically this should only have 1 sig dig, but we'll just round it up. We'll say 218 millimeters and then cubed. And that'd be my answer. But those ones aren't too bad, eh? All right, let's do this one, and then that should be good. So a little bit of algebra. So now it says a cone, so we'll draw the same thing. So draw a cone again. Has a height of 8 meters. So it's got a height of 8 meters. And a volume of 300 meters cubed. So let's leave that for a second. It says determine the radius of the base of the cone to the nearest meter. So it's asking for this now. It's saying what is this, right? The radius. So again, like I said, to get my bearings, let's write the equation down. We can go from there. So the equation for a cone, we said in the last one, volume is equal to 1/3 pi r squared times the height. Okay, now this time they've actually given us the volume, right? They've said the volume is 300 meters cubed, right? So let's throw in the numbers that we know. So we know that that's 300 meters cubed. So let's say, okay, it's 300 is equal to, like I just replaced the V with 300, right? So that's 300 is equal to, and then pi, and then we're looking for r, right? So I'm going to leave that for a second as r squared, and then I know my height, right? They told me that was 8. So that was 8, and now we're after that guy, right? We're after the radius. So just a little bit of algebra, not too bad though. All right, let's clean this up a little bit. So let's say we got 300,
And it's nice out here.
300 is equal to,
Okay.
and what I'm gonna do to clean this up a little bit too, right, is you guys see, I've got this like 1/3 out front, and I've got this 8 hanging off the back, right? But they're all just being multiplied. It'll be a little bit easier if I could just grab that 8, bring it to the front as well, right? So I'm just gonna write this a little different. I'm gonna write this as like, 1/3 times 8 times pi r squared, right? It just looks a little nicer, and I know that I just need to get rid of these guys now to get toward my r squared. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm looking at this one, this 1/3, right? I know this is probably the place where people are like, okay, how do I deal with that thing, right? So
Would
right
you just
now, yep.
would you just like divide it?
You could, yeah, I was gonna go with that. So what you could do, you could say, okay, 1/3 is being multiplied by that. So I could divide both sides by 1/3, right? That makes sense. I typically don't like doing that because it's a little awkward. I'm going 300 divided by 1/3, right? Like it's a little weird, like if I don't need to do that. What I'd rather do, I want you guys just to remember that, okay, so 1/3, right? That's really, this could all be written a little different. I'm gonna do this because I think it's worth it. 300 is equal to, and then this could all be written as 8 pi r squared over 3. Are you guys okay with that move? Maybe? Okay, so what that is that you see how this 3 is in the denominator, it's in the bottom? That's all I did down here too, it's just down in the bottom, right? So remember that math, there's just stuff in the top and there's stuff in the bottom, right? Like there's stuff in the numerator, stuff in the denominator. So this could be written the exact same way. It's like it's all over 3. It'd be the same thing, right? So what that means I can do is that I can, instead of dividing everything by 1/3, well, right now I'm dividing by 3. I could multiply both sides by 3, right? That'd be the same thing, right? Dividing by 1/3 or multiplying by 3 would give you the same number. So let's do that. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3. So we're going to go times 3 on both sides. So we end up with 900 is equal to, and now I've still got 8 pi r squared. Can you guys give me a thumbs up if that all made sense? Okay, good. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot you guys can actually give me a thumbs up in the screen. Yeah, cool. All right. So now I just need r squared on its own, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of the 8, but you know what? Why don't we just get rid of the 8 and the pi at the same time, right? They're both just numbers. So what we can do is I can divide them both by 8 pi. So divide by 8 pi and divide by 8 pi is equal to. So now I'll just actually, I'll leave it like that for a second. So we'll leave it as 900 over 8 pi. You could put that into your calculator and figure out what number you get, but it's going to be an irrational number because we're multiplying by pi. So I'm just actually going to leave it like that and just do everything at the end. So now what's the very last step? So I got r squared is equal to all that stuff. How do I get rid of that squared?
You would square root it.
You square root it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to square root both sides. So square root. So we end up with r. So because the square cancels with the square root, r is equal to, and then we can actually put that all in, right? The square root of 900 over 8 pi. So r would be equal to whatever that is. Square root of 900 divided by 8 times pi equals, and I get 5.98. So really, I'll round that up to 6. Can you guys try that right now? Put this in your calculator, because there's a way that you can put in your calculator that'll give you the wrong answer. And I want to see if you guys end up getting the answer there, because that'll be nice.
I don't even remember where the pi button is.
Okay.
Oh, I found it. Yeah, Mr. Brown, I got 353. So then you just square root that number, right?
Yeah, see what you get when you square after you square root that. It'll probably be a little high.
I did it.
Did you get the right answer?
Yeah.
Nice.
Dead mass. That's what I think.
Yeah, I got 18.
Yeah, so here's what the issue would have been. It's this right here, right? When like this is the way it would go into your calculator. 900 divided by, and then in brackets, 8 times pi. Because because if we don't do that, what your calculator thinks you meant was 900, right? Divided by 8 and then times pi, right? Like if I don't write it with the brackets, it thinks the pi is in the numerator and not the denominator. So yeah, just in brackets. And it should be good.
900 times, nope, divided by, bracket, 8 times seconds pi. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I got 35 now, so I can square root that number.
Yeah, exactly. That should be right? Because square root of 36 is 6, right? So we'll be a little, we'll be a little bit less than 6, which makes sense.
Yeah, I got 5.98.
Perfect.